let's
Thank
go
you.
ahead and welcome to the Walton Community School District, Wednesday, March 10th, 2021. Regular board meeting. Mission of the Walton Community School District is to provide an education that encourages continual progress through the improvement of one's abilities, the expansion of one's interests and knowledge, and the growth of one's character. Call to order, roll call, please, Joy.
Tim Barrett.
Here.
Linda Duncan.
Here.
Jeremy Lee.
Here.
Rob Metzger. Tara Wang.
Thanks, Joy. Agenda approval, any additions, changes, or corrections, Mr. Burke?
No, I guess the one thing I do want to mention, we used to have a recognition piece in here. I do want to recognize Stacy Kirkman. 35 years ago today, she started in this role.
Today?
And 35 years to the day later, she's attending her last regular school board meeting.
So cupcakes for everyone.
So cupcakes for everyone.
Thank you, Stacy.
Stacy, what was the day like back in 1986 on March 10th?
Scary.
Scary day?
Scary. Yeah. Sorry, it was a long time ago.
Well,
Scary today too, so.
did it seem like it went fast?
Yes, I hope the next 35 years doesn't go as fast.
Well, I was thinking, you were in year 15 when I started here, and as fast as that's gone, that's why I think it's your last 20, just how fast that time has gone by, and how much has changed from your first year until today. Did you start with a computer like an Apple? Do you remember?
The accounting was manual when I started, single entry manual accounting, and I had computerized the office that summer after I got hired.
So your first summer was when you said you computerized the office?
Yes, that was required by the state.
Do you remember what device you used? Was it an IBM or?
Yeah, so I believe it was IBM. We had an Apple IIe or something in the office that we used to type board bills on.
The old green screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah? Wow.
I know.
Yeah, lots of changes in 35 years.
Yeah, can you imagine Chromebooks and everything, if you could have seen in the 35-year mark what you're doing, pretty amazing. But we will certainly miss you, and I cannot thank you enough for all you taught me as a superintendent and the influence you've had on the district. So we wish you a long, healthy, happy, and safe retirement.
Thank you.
So anyway, just wanted to start by recognizing her.
Yeah.
And there are cupcakes for later.
All right.
And Derek, would it be possible to get a picture with Stacy and her cupcakes before
She
you?
would love that. She would love that, Joe. I'll do that.
Just take one picture of me and Ann to be done with it, okay?
Make that an order, Joe.
Okay, it's a order, yes.
Can you do a full page, full color front with that?
All right, with that, I entertain a motion for the agenda approval. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, we will go to the minutes. We will approve, please, the February 10th regular meeting first. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. And then the February 24th work session.
I move to approve the February 24th work session.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, we have a public forum, and I'm guessing. it's-
Yeah, tonight we are exchanging our initial opening proposals. And Mr. Hewitt has the WEAs, and you have on your computer a copy of the district's interest statement, which I've given them to. And during this time, it's just if there's any questions or clarifications from either side on the initial interests. I don't know, Joe, do you have-
Standard operating procedure that was done for the past couple of years, so.
Mhm.
I think we both got, we want to keep it kind of broad,
Mhm.
talk about it later.
Okay.
And our next meeting, where we really can dig into this, is next Wednesday. So,
Yep.
yeah, and fortunately for us, with our insurance rates and the legislature setting SSA, everything should be in place for us to work.
For the first time in 10,
Yeah,
was it literally,
yeah,
that they set a level through, but that's what they're supposed to do.
exactly. And 2.4% is one of the highest higher amounts we've had in the last 10 years. It's not the highest amount in the last 10 years, I don't. We've had a lot of years under that.
That's the other than the 2 plus 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, well, that's fantastic.
Yeah, but you want to plan on meeting in here from tonight, like before, and we can go from there. I think Lynette's going to join us physically this time, so we won't have to worry about the
Said we all be face to face.
communication issues.
Little, yeah.
Are there any questions on the board side or the WEA side? We have parent-teacher conferences tonight, so this worked out nice with them. Having those going on, yeah.
Give a shout out to our PTO for offering up soccer for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
PTO takes care of our teachers. We appreciate them. As does Jill, at least on this end, doesn't she bring dessert or snacks?
She convinced Casey to donate some pizzas.
Okay.
Oh,
Why not Jill make cookies or
She
brownies?
does that too.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, well, let's give her some
Yep.
kudos. Yep.
Gonna have to talk to Jill.
So-
Sorry, Tammy.
We're gonna have to
We're
talk
not
to
like
Jill on
conversation.
that.
We'll share that with the election
Yes.
staff.
All right.
All right. All right.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Okay,
guys.
thank
you.
Hey, Joe.
All right. Next is Bo.
Bo's here to talk a little about some bid work that we'll ask the board to approve in the latter part of the meeting, so we thought we could put it in here at the early portion. So, Bo, you want to talk about your bids that you have from the front board for later?
Yes, I do. So again, this year, we're eligible for E-rate Category 2 funding, and we need to take advantage of that because the wireless infrastructure is 6 years old and starting to show its age. It was put in 6 years ago, and Tex got ahead of it, like it always will. So it leaves us with basically 2 bids that really were kind of neck and neck, about a 52,000 and a 49. The 52,000 is the same switch vendor that we have now, so it'll provide some efficiencies in troubleshooting. We ran into a problem last year where we had 2 different vendors, and I've always ran this way, it's just kind of how it's worked out. They both pointed fingers at each other. So it'll be really kind of nice to actually have hopefully one vendor here, and when we have a troubleshooting issue, hey, we can work through it a lot faster. So, and then better network, more coverage outside, coverage in every classroom, just expanding coverage so we can use space more flexibly. Trying to think about COVID and plan more for the future in that way.
I have a question.
Yes,
And this is maybe completely, it won't be an issue at all, but if everything goes to 5G at some point, how does that affect the infrastructure and what we have in place in schools? Is there anything that would change, or we need an upgrade to?
No, I mean, I saw some very rural schools in like Carolina going with the SpaceX service because they don't have fiber. We're in a very unique position here. We have 5 different fiber providers sitting out in the ag building. So when I go out to bid for internet on that case, and that's really what that 5G is, I get some great pricing and great options for us.
Okay,
So-
well, I just didn't know if there's any
No,
infrastructure needs.
So we've got good solid fiber here, so we won't ever have to worry about that. Some schools, that'll be a great advantage for. So
Well, kudos for having our fiber to where it needs to be for the future, because again,
it's nice.
that would be tough.
It's a great bidding opportunities for us there too.
Okay.
Any other questions, anybody?
So your recommendation is obviously.
The Extreme Network, so we say one vendor
And it is a little bit more.
Yep.
But the board has the flexibility as long as it's reasonable on why we would choose one or the other, the higher bid. And in this particular case,
it's $2,200, 220322. And that'll come out of the technology budget.
and streamline the same company.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
That'll make a lot of sense. I mean, and I've always ran 2 different vendors, it's never been a thing, but for a $2,000 price difference, I think it'll have a lot of.
I think that should be letter C under individual action items. So we can look at this, just so they know. And then the district wireless infrastructure
Yep.
is.
Yep.
So it's under letter C.
All right.
No, B.
Is it? Oh, B, excuse me, B.
C is
the Chromebook.
C is the Chromebook rebid because of crazy COVID. I'll just hit that real quick too. Manufacturer called us and said they weren't going to accept our order because they were canceling that product line. And they were moving on to the next.
Great.
I want to say they were 500,000 units behind and they felt they had no way to catch up, so. Here we got to go to rebid. Hopefully we'll have these before July 1st.
Bo, is there anything particular on letter C with the Chromebook bids as far as what you're recommending as the lowest bid?
Yeah, I think that one we were able to bid out all the same thing from 2 vendors, so whoever was lowest we were fine with, that wasn't an issue there. actually, I think that one of the positive things, I think these Chromebooks are slightly better than the last one we bid out, so yay for
Should be
the
a
chaos.
generation.
Yeah, yeah. Yay for all the chaos, sorry we gotta do it again, I guess.
Well, that's, at least,
Oh, it's-
yeah. Okay,
Welcome to the last year and a half, I guess.
there you go.
Anything else, Bo?
No, that was all.
Any other questions from the board on the technology side? Okay, well, when we get to that part, that's what we're referring to. So, thank you.
You don't need anything to say then?
Uh,
You want me to stay or?
No, you're good. Go.
All right, have a great night, guys, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, so we are going to move on to number 5. Stacy?
Upload number 5, taxation funds, and general fund. I point out that in the revenues, you can see the ESER 2 fund now, we actually will be eligible for $288,000, but the process is a little different from last year where they gave us the 60-some thousand up front for the ESER 1. Now we actually have to spend it and do a reimbursement process. So we're estimating that we'll spend $195,000 this fiscal year, that 288, and so waiting for reimbursement for what I submitted in January for ESER 1 and ESER 2, and the GER 1 funds. So we are not eligible for the GER 2 funds because it's for school districts focusing almost entirely on online school, and that would not be us. So, and then reminder that down in the balance summary at the bottom, the insurance payable, because we do our self-funded insurance, what we expense and what we pay are 2 different premiums, and the difference sets in that account, and generally, we can do that a couple times a year, or at least at the end of the year, that's zeroed out and goes into the self-insurance fund. So that's part of the medical premiums that are setting there. And it doesn't matter if it sits in the general fund or the self-insurance fund, if we don't need it in the self-insurance fund, because all of the interest income from self-insurance is transferred back to the general fund. So, don't really have anything else to point out on any of the other funds, unless anyone has any questions. Upload number 6 is instructional support levy. So, revenues at the top, budget in the middle of the first page, and what we've paid through February at the bottom of the first page. And then what's left in each budget area at the top of the second page. And that should all be spent down to 0 by the end of June. Any questions or comments on ISP? Upload number 7 is a self-insurance fund. Most important info in the lower left-hand corner for the fund breakdown by medical, dental, and vision. Upload number 8 is the latchkey program. So at the top of the page, you have the before and after school program usage for the current month would be February, previous month would be January, so pretty consistent. And once again, received some grant money of $2,000 in February, so up to $22,000, when last summer she thought she was gonna get 8, so this keeps coming. But, which is a good thing, but on the other hand, because she's had to have a lot more, personnel to keep the kids more separate and doing things, if she didn't have that grant money, the balance would have been going down instead of up. So, and next upload would be the period vendor reports for latchkey, or anything they spent their money on that wasn't payroll. So other than payroll, not a lot of spending going on there. Upload number 10, nutrition fund. So the first page is the usage. So we continue into the CARES program. So the first 12 days of the school year was a regular program, and then CARES kicked in, so we're 102 days through February into the CARES program. So we're still keeping track of if students were paying, how many would have paid, how many were reduced, and how many were free. But no one's paying for their first lunch or breakfast. And then the finances at the bottom of the page.
Can I mention this quick, Stacy? I was notified yesterday that there's going to be a summer program again where kids can get fed over the summer, like we did last year. The eligible schools, and anyone that did it last year, I believe, is eligible for this year. So I'll keep you posted. But that was from yesterday.
So obviously there are more kids eating with the free program, and the reimbursements have been higher. So that balance usually starts growing this time of year because she's got to pay 3 months of salary to pay out contracts in June, but the balance is really growing, so. Any questions or comments on nutrition fund? And then upload number 11 would be the expenditures for the month of February for nutrition fund other than payroll. Upload number 12 would be the CARES program, and for the month of February, how many by elementary, junior, senior ate lunch and breakfast? So. And then upload number 13, first page is the activity fund. There are a few negatives. See, both the music and the athletic funds are in good shape. Industrial arts, the 7280 line, in the hole due to purchasing the supplies for one of the classes to build a shed, and the shed is already pre-sold, so before the end of the school year, that should be out of the red. And football cheerleading, I think we talked about that before, but Joy and I had a discussion today that the cheerleading sponsor is working with Ryan Hetzler about maybe doing some kind of a fundraiser before the end of the year, and they also work some concessions. So when the winter canteen is closed out, that shouldn't be as far in the hole. And then the $25 for the summer canteen is part of the Sam's Club fee that will, of course, summer canteen has not started yet. And then in the top of the second page with the farm account, FFA Enterprise, hogs is in the hole, but other accounts are able to cover that if that does not get out of the hole by the end of the year. And then we have our in-house flex spending account and the custodial funds, which are funds that our office accounts for, but we do not technically own. Any questions? Any of those financials? And then upload number 14 would be the period vendor reports for all of those funds. Much more lengthy than nutrition fund or last sheet. Upload number 15 is the activities driving report, so still not a lot of activities besides sports. We have wrestling and basketball, so everything is under the 7-12 area. And then the next upload, number 16, would be the taxation fund bills. We have about 8 pages or so of general fund bills. And then we have the fourth quarter equipment breakdown insurance premium for this fiscal year. And then some high school lobby concession area contractor payments. And our internet fees out of 1-cent sales tax. And then there was a bill from Point Builders split between Fund 34 and Fund 31 because in Fund 34 we finally spent all of the carryover from the town just gave us for the project last year. So, any questions on any of the bills here? Got a big MCC bill from the first semester.
in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Stacy. All right, we'll move on to the administrative reports. Mrs. Austin for the elementary.
We are, as Mr. Burnett said, in the middle of the first night for us, the parent-teacher conferences tonight. And again, the parents have been very receptive to Google Meets. The majority of our conferences are being done over Google Meet, and we expect to, our goal is always 95%, and I see no reason why we won't hit that. The parents are just great about signing up, and because it's different. And we had hoped to have them in person, but that's not our best option, we decided at this point. Kindergarten numbers are up to 57, so, and we're climbing, so we feel really good about that, because, you know, we were worried about that a couple months ago. K2 Family Night, we are going to do that virtually as well on March 18th. So the kids will go home that day from school with a set of math games, and then we'll Google Meet the whole grade level, and then 30 minutes later we'll do the next, because it's only K2, so each grade level will have their own 30 minutes. So if a parent had kids in different grades, they can meet. So the kids will be excited about that. April 7th is our Leader in Me Leadership Day. It will look very different this year. That's always the day where we showcase our year's work and progress on Leader in Me. And that will be virtual this year, so you will be getting, if you have not already received them, invitations to join us virtually. Lighthouse Team Process and Leader in Me, that's like the highest level you can attain, and they've got some complicated rubrics that you go through every single part of Leader in Me. We will not start the actual, our teachers are a little hesitant to begin the formal process because it's a lot of work and we have to make sure that that's where we want to spend our time. But we are reviewing the rubric because, of course, that's easy for us. We can just do that internally. So you'll hear a little bit about that as it's just always good to find the places that we can grow and where the Leader in Me team would like us to end up. Hiring update, we hired Tara Miller as our 4th grade teacher. She comes to us from Tipton with 12 years of elementary experience. I'm really excited to have her join our team. Very highly regarded and has had a lot of fantastic experience, and she lives in the district and has 2 kids who attend children. So it's fun to have her. It's great, it would be great to have her on board. Today we interviewed for 1st grade, and our 1st grade team has a very strong team, and it's kind of like breaking up is hard to do for them. And it's just really been an interesting experience. You just, until you take that moment of pause and hire, you don't realize how tight those people are and how closely they work together. And I think our kids really benefit from that. So we had some very good interviews today, and we'll see how that shakes out. As you can see, Amanda Scarborough is transferring to the preschool, that new preschool special ed position we talked about. So we are currently advertising for 5th and 6th grade science. And this is more hiring than I've had to do for quite a while. You know, when we grew up, we had to hire a lot. And then since, because our turnover traditionally isn't very high, but with the 2 retirements and the 1 changing jobs. So it's a busy time for us. Swimming starts on the 22nd. On the bottom of the page on the calendar, I listed that twice because we were having a hard time deciding how many times we really wanted to go, and we ended up going with the 22nd because the week of ISASS tests in April, we're not sure we'll start. We don't have kids get all wound up and be late getting back and then have that affect their scores. So we're waiting for the teachers to give us their schedule of when they're going to actually test, and then we'll see when their PE time is, and then we'll make that decision. So we backed it up to the 22nd to give us another week there. Other than that, our concerts are both Mr. Miller Band and Miss Whitehead with General Music have been worked very hard to get the virtual concerts out, but we will have in May real band concerts. So, again, other than that, the kindergarten day, I mean, it's really closing in. It's just crazy to see how fast it has gone. It's on the 19th. Like I said earlier, we have up to 57, and you know, we always add. So boy, if you add 5 or 10 to that, we're for a small class, we're in the ballpark. We'll have to do that. Any questions for me?
isn't it weird? I mean, it's been a year.
The,
Just think what we were doing last year when we had to shut down and had to, and where we scrambled and how, what is it gonna look like, whatever. It's like, and we've come a long way. Thank you to both, you guys, you and Maxwell. It's like, wow, the whole and teach everybody. I mean, we just, I think, really have done a really good job. But yeah, a year.
It is eerie almost. To think about it,
Yeah.
and think about where we were, yeah.
Mhm. That was kind of, the fear of the unknown is not pleasant at all. All right.
No, good work, Mrs. Austin. Like she said, it's been a busy month, but a good month.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. All right, we'll move on. If there's nothing else anyone wants to comment from Mrs. Austin, Mr. Snavely?
Can you guys hear me? I'm kind of a ways away, but maybe I'll walk up some.
Mr. Davis, you go up here and get the hot seat during your.
Presentation, sure.
No, well, we've got a lot going on. Sometimes as a principal, it's hard to keep track of everything. So, speech, it's kind of that season when we transition to speech. So we have, in the first paragraph, I talked about all the students that participated in district speech. We have 3 students, Josh Hunter, Megan Cook, and Gracie Cooley that are going to be in state contest this Saturday, and that's all virtually this year, so they'll be performing Saturday. I talked about the band concert we had on March 1st. We did split high school and junior high up, which is nice. It made it quick and in and out, and they got to do it, face to face and not virtually. So that was nice. And junior high is next week, so that's nice to get them back at it. Our high school spring virtual concert was last week. Hopefully we can get that live this spring as well, so we can kind of end the year on that note. And then I talked about in my board report, Terry Dankman and I, Terry's our prom sponsor. We met with the students last week, all the juniors and seniors, I should say, and we talked about what our plans were for prom, and basically what we're doing. I included this letter in my board report, and I sent that home to parents. And basically, we scaled some things back as far as time, just because, with masks on, it's going to be hard to have a dance too long. And we already know from being there that it's already too long. So we just scaled some things back, and we didn't want to get prom done too early either, because that invites things that maybe we don't want as part of the night. So we are going to still be pretty late, but not as late as, not an all-night thing like it has been in the past. So we met with all the students. They didn't really have any questions, and I think they were happy with what we came up with. And the sign-up is going up in the office, and the permission forms, they are going to bring guests in. They're going to be allowed to bring guests. We decided after talking with public health and our nurse said at Hartley that contact tracing is going to be difficult no matter what. So on our guest form, we asked for some more information from the guests, just so in the event that we need to contact trace, we can do that a little bit more efficiently. So that's off and running. April 24th is the date for that. We've done interviews the last couple weeks. I sent you all the emails, I believe, with our 712 social studies teacher. And late last night, I was able to wrap up our PE interviews. So we have 2 individuals that are on the agenda tonight. We approved both those individuals are high quality. We did a really good job with making that happen. So that's very, very happy with that. And then Mr. Bruns, he always, in passing, we always talk, and he always tells me what's going on, and then I always end it with, can you email me that? Because I can never remember everything he tells me. But he's off to a successful start in 2021. He had 4 members apply for their state proficiency awards. And with that, if you're in FFA back in the day, it's like a 22-page application. There's goals, there's proficiencies, there's pictures you got to put as part of that, financial records. It's all that kind of stuff. If you're in 4-H FFA, you remember that. But we had several members. I'm going to mention the Durant students too, just because it's all part of our program. Brian Graves was named state champion in the area of diversified crop production. So he'll be heading to nationals. Mason Nolte was reserve state champion in the area of 4-H production. Emma Hartman placed 3rd in the area of swine production. Dalen Cooling was 8th in the area of goat production. So if they don't win the state champion, they can reapply next year. So Again, there's some pretty high accolades there, and they'll have some more opportunities if they're under class. On Saturday, last Saturday, the Ag Issues team, Taylor Schultz, Kylie Langley, Anna Marie and Elizabeth Dahlfeld, and J.C. Weiss, who must be Durant students, they were named District Reserve Champion, and now will perform at state with a chance to go to nationals. So as of right now, the FFA State Convention is going to go on. I think it's at Wells Fargo this year. They moved it out of Ames just for the sheer, I guess, to be able to make it work for the number of people that are attending. There's not as many that are able to attend and things like that. So I think Hilton wasn't allowing X number of people, so that's why they moved it. So that's the reason for that. And then he's also working on filling, remember that Samsung grant that he does every year? He's been very successful with that, working with the students, and they've just done awesome. So that is, they made it to the first phase. The next deadline is the 21st of March, and that's a chance of $65,000. So by early April, we'll find out if we're in that next top 10, I guess is what we're looking for there. And then they're also practicing for the Iowa Cattlemen's Beef Extravaganza. There's 3 teams that he has going with that. Preparing for Ag Communications, Ag Marketing, and Biotech, which will be part of state in April. And then he has 2 teams preparing for the Envirothon contest that's all part of the state convention as well. So sometimes it's just hard to imagine what's really going on behind closed doors, but there's always a ton of kids that are out there in the annex preparing for things, and sometimes we don't see that stuff, just because there's so many things going on. And I always try to make sure that I really keep in touch with Mr. Bruns to be able to not only know what's going on, but also share it with all of you. So, and then of course, we're going to hit our fair season. I remember last year about this time having some conversations about should we have animals out at the farm, what are we going to do about the fair, what are the fairs going to do. So we're glad that we did that last year, and they were able to have that opportunity. So that'll all be kicking off here shortly again. So that's what I have. Any questions for me? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Snee.
you very much. All right, now we move on to action items. Will be consent agenda number 1.
See quite a few on there. I just want to make a funny comment about letter C, but I probably shouldn't, Jeremy. You can make a comment? Okay. I just hope this doesn't affect your gun budget you were talking about last time.
Oh, yeah.
We're good.
Okay, all right. You can see the resignations there. Kate, with volleyball, there's just a kind of a hodgepodge there, different people and moving on forward, so forth, including Mr. Snavely, we wish him the best. Mrs. Austin talked about Amanda Scarborough. Angela here, going from high school assistant volleyball coach to 8th grade. Stacy was in that role. So I think that's a good move for Angela, just from a time commitment standpoint, for evenings and weekends and travel. So that'll be good. And then job descriptions, our SRO. Speaking of the SRO, there's still one of the bills that's alive currently, which would definitely benefit us. Is a bill that I believe passed through the Senate Ways and Means Committee, and now is going to the floor, about allowing schools the opportunity to expand their instructional support levy to cover the cost of one SRO in your district. So that would help us because we pay for the SRO out of our risk funding. So that would allow more money in our risk funding to do some things to meet the needs of our kids too. So fingers crossed that goes through. But that's all I have on consent agenda number 1.
Motion to approve consent agenda number 1.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, consent agenda number 2, policy.
Yeah, I'm working with Joy on these. These are pretty cut and dry. The only one where there's some flexibility in there is the public participation in board meetings. What the board decided, time gets away from me, but a few years ago, so we don't have citizens out of the blue show say, I want to speak to the board about this or that, they need to notify the board secretary by noon on the day of the board agenda to be included on the agenda. So you'll see that in that policy. I mean, that's something the board can tweak, but I think it's worked pretty well. There has been, I don't want to say several, but again, I've been in this role a long time. But over the course of my career, there's been several people that have called me wanting to be on the agenda. And it's allowed me to have conversations with them about, well, what's your questions about this or that? And major majority of the time, they're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I don't need to come in front of the board. But by having the policy in place, it allows that conversation to occur versus showing up and then, you know, it just allows time to get to the right spots. So I don't have any other suggestions. I don't have any suggestions this month on any changes on consent agenda number 2 with the board policies.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, consent agenda number 3.
Yeah, the first 2 there, A and B, are the second readings of the policies we discussed last month at the annual meeting, now being in December. And the regular meeting, the tweaks that we made in those. Letter C is our UNI student-teacher agreement. We'll see several of these this spring, they're just renewals of agreements. Typically it's from Wesleyan or UNI or the University of Iowa, St. Ambrose, but just allows student teachers to come here. Mrs. Austin said at one of her earlier meetings, because we've been full-time, I don't know if it's a record number of student
It
teachers,
seems like it.
but we've had quite a few.
The demand is out of
And letter D, and Stacy, you can go over this, our recommended insurance rates and benefit adjustment for vision plan. We talked about it briefly at interest-based problem solving last week, but we need to have that approved tonight by the board. Stacy, is there anything you want to mention?
You know, that's what I said last week about, you can see the percentage increases around 1.5 for medical, 0 for dental and vision. And then I updated the balances below for the end of February. And if you see the yellow highlighted area, between conversations with Mr. Burnett and Lana and myself, I had some people mention to me that it seemed like a lot of the vision eye claim fees were increasing, so I contacted our insurance agent. He got some information from some of the vision companies, because we do our vision is totally self-funded. And we've been paying $100 per eye exam for every 12-month period. And the average rate right now is around $150. So we're going to increase that from $100 to $125 for your approval in our benefits, and that's in the highlighted area there, and that would go into effect July 1st. So, any questions about any of that?
All right. Joy, I do not, of course, showing my advanced stage as well. You have in here the agreement with EICC in the packet,
Oh, and it's not.
but it's not on the agenda.
Oh.
But it is in the packet, therefore it's a public document. So we need to include that on consent agenda number 3, if we can do that legally. Again, it's in the packet, it was presented publicly. Make a long story short, we share Andrea Schulteis with West Liberty and MCC. Again, it's an annual agreement.
Well, it's like it's something new. This is a recurring.
This isn't something new, it's an annual agreement, so it's nothing new. It's certainly not a situation where we're trying to
Yeah.
pull a fast one. But we need to have this approved so they can take it to their board of directors. And West Liberty's approving this, we're approving it. I believe we're in year 3 of this. I could be wrong, but I believe we're in year 3. And that's that career and college counselor that works with kids on the FAFSA and does a lot of different things with the kids with MCC, concurrent enrollment, and getting them prepped for college. So put that as letter E under consent agenda number 3. EICC, or excuse me, MCC agreement, which is an umbrella of EICC, East Round Community College. But it's in your packet. consent.
Okay, consent agenda number 3.
Yep.
Okay, I approve, I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda number 3. Second.
You guys fight over it. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now individual.
Yes, Stacy can talk about this, but as you heard her mention over the last few months, refinancing our bonds. Her and Angela have done a lot of work, go back and forth with Michael Gillespie, they've got the rate today, and you know how much we're gonna save by refinancing, which is huge. And this is one of the first steps with this. So Stacy, if you want to, as far as approving it, would you like to discuss letter A, please?
Yes, so 33A, that upload, the first sheet that shows a summary of the proposals received, and they only got 3. And this Luana, Iowa Savings Bank is, I guess, a small bank that's recently branched out to Des Moines. So it was a small bank in a small town in Iowa that's now become a big bank, he told us. And their bid was for the current market considerably lower than the other 2. So that's what's on the first page that I was asked to share with you. And the second page would be your bidder list. So everyone highlighted is who requested bid information, but only 3 of them. To them. So the third page is kind of sums it all up, but there's a lot of numbers on that page. So to the far left, that is our current debt service schedule for the bond issue that we're refinancing. We're refinancing the 2015 revenue bond issue that we had for $5,705,000 for the elementary project. We also had a GEO bond issue for that project that was like $9 million and some. The red line in the middle of that schedule shows when those bonds could be callable and refinanced. So at the end of the 21 year, that we're eligible for that. So we will actually pay off all the bonds on top of that red line to the $390,000 that we'll be paying off in June this year. And then everything below that line is what we're refinancing. Okay, so if you go over on that same page to the little chart in the middle that has kind of the goldish orange top to it, that is the bottom of that schedule that we just discussed on the left, which is $3.48 million that we're refinancing. And then the schedule with the yellow on the top will be the new schedule, which we are knocking that down by refinancing to $3,028,000. So at the bottom there's a bigger sheet of this, but there's the sources of funds and the uses of funds. So when we go back to the 2015 revenue bond issue, we had to set aside, back in those days, what they call the debt service reserve fund. So you see that on the fund number 34 report every month that we have $499,100 setting in an account, and that was if we would fall short on our revenue stream for the 1-cent sales tax, that was money to fall back on. Thankfully, we never had to use it. But that money comes into play in the refinancing by law. It has to be used for the refinancing. We just can't take that money out and start doing projects with it. It has to be used towards the refinancing. So if you look at the sources of funds, it'll be for refinancing the new bond issue, the $3,028,000, which will be our new bond schedule, and then using that debt reserve fund of the $499,100. And that's the total sources of the funds, and then they show you the breakdown for the uses. We'll pay off the $3.48 million in our bonds. We have, of course, a cost to doing the refinancing of a mere $46,000, almost $47,000, and then there's a tiny surplus left there. But in doing all this, we're saving almost $200,000, even with those costs. So that's kind of the summary sheet. If you go to the next page, that's the sources and the uses that I just talked about. in bigger print. Then the following page has the new bond debt service schedule for the $3,028,000 worth of bonds. Also, I guess I should point out, if you go back to the page, this page that has the three schedules on it, if you look at the one in the middle, that's our current schedule, you can see what we're refinancing. The rates go from 2.1% up to 3.5%. If you look at the new schedule, the rates are 0.85% up to 1.45%. So a lot lower, and that's why we're saving so much money. And we're also cutting a year off of the bonds. The current bond issue would not have been paid until 29, and the refinance will be paid in 28. So, and I guess there is, should be, I think, your next page after the bond debt schedule. It says savings at the top. And if you, there's a lot of numbers there, but if you go to the right side, there's an annual savings column and the present value of that annual savings. And so technically, we're saving $198,890, but of course, if you're a math geek and you want to know what that means in present value of money, it's $190,000. So really, I wouldn't pay a lot of attention to the far column, but that's what they do. So actually, if we stay with what we had, we would pay $198,890 more than we're going to pay. And then on top of that, there's also fees that aren't reflected in this, because for our 2015 revenue bond issue, we had to have all of those special accounts that we no longer have to have, and there was a bank that was taking care of UMB, it used to be Bankers Trust, is taking care of those accounts for us. We're paying them $2,000 a year to take care of those accounts. On the new bond issue, as well as the 2020 bond issue we just did, we'll only pay $600. So over the course of those years, the difference of paying $2,000 versus $600, so that's a savings of $1,400 per year that we will not be paying them. And then because of the old 2015 revenue bond requirements, we had to have Piper Jaffray, I call it something else now, but Piper, our financial advisors, do some disclosure information for us on those bonds. They will not have to do on the new ones, and that will save us $1,000 a year. So right there is $2,400 a year of savings in just fees that aren't even reflected on this. So it's been a lot of extra work, a little stressful, but a lot of savings. So and there's still some more work to do. There's a timeline here on one of your last, I guess, it is your last page. And so on March 24th, we'll have a special board meeting before the work session, not only to talk about the budget publication, but we'll have some documents that we have to execute regarding this refinancing. And then the actual transaction is not closed until April, when the money will actually be put in the school's account, but the actual bond refinance will not happen until July 1st. So it's a little bit of a drawn-out process, but considerable savings.
I think it's
Any
amazing
questions?
that we're going to pay this off a year early, and I think we're 7 years away from the last payment already on the revenue bonds. But what the board committed to several years ago was putting 2/3 of our 1 cent sales tax money that we knew would anticipate coming in toward that building project. You know how we talk about as a group with our maintenance committee and lack of, everything's tied up right now. Some of it's because we're just gonna get this project done. But also, that's gonna open up a lot of funding opportunities for us as a district 7 years from now to do some things on the south end here and any future projects or anything we need to do. That's a big deal. And I know 7 years may seem like it's a ways out, but really, it's been 7 years since we passed the bond referendum. So, anyway, good work. So, this is a resolution, so we need a motion and a second and a roll call vote.
Okay.
So, motion to approve the resolution regarding the sale of school infrastructure service and tax revenue from bonds.
B is those wireless infrastructure bids, correct?
Yes.
And it's,
He's asking for the bid that came in at 52,000 and change. What company is that?
The Communication Innovators.
Yes.
And so if you look at that line that says Communication Innovators on the second page, it has the far right estimated reimbursement, estimated school cost. So the estimated reimbursement would be from this E-rate money that's available. And then the balance of the school cost would come out of the technology ISP account in the general fund, just like the project we did this year.
okay.
They did it last summer and when we got the reimbursement in the fall.
So we need a motion to approve the communication.
Innovation Innovators.
Innovators.
I move to approve the bid for communication innovators for the district wireless infrastructure. I'll second.
Okay, there's not a resolution, we can just have it vote.
Yep.
Right, all right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, and then the Chromebook rebid.
Well, just as a side note too, if you look, that attachment's 73 pages.
I know. Ooh.
Which I need to talk to Bo about. Like on the next page here, this is what I prefer, where you can have just a small spreadsheet there and you can see the cost broke down just right in front of you. I'm trying to scroll and find his numbers.
Even though that's 8 pages.
Right,
With
but at
the
least there's a
actual
summary.
bid, I know.
I mean,
Nice.
Yes.
so,
There was
what-
a summary on the second page of the other one, but it was on the second page.
was it on the second?
Yes, it was.
Okay, I like the first page summary. I know I'm high maintenance. It just, when you're scrolling across, and you're trying to go on the agenda to speak to the superintendent and then scroll to
All right.
the mouse inside on my little generator in my head did not run fast enough. The gerbil.
All right.
She wasn't in the right place.
Okay,
So,
if you look at letter C, the 4th and 5th grade, 7th and 10th grade, Chromebook rotation bids, he wanted to go with the lowest bid there. Yep, which was with IT Savvy, $292 per unit, 328.
So this is actually replacing the bid you guys approved
Yep.
last month. So we actually, in this motion, you should actually say something about withdrawing the bid from last month's meeting. And we talked about that, so,
And replacing it with this month's bid with
yes.
okay.
And this is coming
IT
from,
Savvy.
this is coming from the ESSER two funds that I just put in the budget. So if something happens and these do not come within the next 3 weeks as anticipated, then that will, mess up the budget. Very well could happen, so.
I'd like to make a motion to withdraw the previous bids for Chromebooks and go with IT Savvy at $95,766.
Okay, that was second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, and then now curriculum purchases.
All right, Stacy, you want to talk about the curriculum purchases that Mr. Myers submitted? Is there anything in particular to point out?
Well, it's math, so it's a lot. We don't usually always spend this much money on curriculum every year, but math is expensive, and Mr. Meyer tells me that elementary math is next year. So it's probably not gonna be any cheaper. So we will try to pay for as much of this out of this year's budget as we can, just as we always do, but, we'll have to receive it to pay for it, so, after you guys approve this, Mr. Meyer will start working on that, and we'll see what we can get received and paid for before July 1st, so. But this is there's a rotation that he does, is it a 5-year, 7-year?
7,
7?
but it depends somewhat too on, anymore with a lot of the stuff that, it depends on the curriculum. There's certain curriculum, like to give you an example, social studies, where you may not have textbooks anymore, but you get everything online and you're paying for licensure fees. So it's not what it used to be 20 years ago. But typically, it's about a 7-year rotation. And he is suggesting, Stacy, with the red, those are the companies, right? So we just need a bid to approve the curriculum purchase purchases with the highlighted companies listed. For the 6th grade, 8th grade math, Reveal, 9th through 12th grade math, Carnegie Learning, and Savis and Savos and Pearson.
Possibly make the motion.
I was gonna say, I'll make a motion to digital, or for individual action item D, curriculum purchases for 6th through 8th, Reveal math, 9 through 12 math, parsonage and learning, and do we need business law also?
Yep.
Savvy person, parsons. So,
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, informational discussion items.
Yeah, we have lots of resignations, which leads to a lot of hirings. So you can see those listed below. Maintenance-wise, once we get the high school junior, senior high principal hired, we'll start the process with replacing Joe Regis's position. I've been working closely with Joe and for a long time, but particularly in this last year, and him reporting things and looking at monthly what he does, and really trying to get that person, the next person to be successful and having all the information on what Joe does. But I'll be talking to the school board and seeing what you want the role to be, if you want to serve on, especially the maintenance committee, if you have interest in the hiring process of the maintenance rate. So, I've said this before, so it's kind of a repeat, but I want that person to start June 1st, because Joe's last day is June 30th, so they got a month overlap. Which means I'd like to advertise this position early April when we get back from spring break. I'd like to have our interviews the latter part of April, 1st of May, and then have them start around 1st of June. So that's kind of just an outline of the timeline there. So, I've said this before too, July 1st will look a lot different this year than it did last year with Stacy's role and Joe Raggitz's role and Mr. Snavely's role. So, 3 big sets of shoes to fill. Pool board, what do you got?
Moving forward with bids and to fix and do what we need for the building. We've got fiber, so now we'll connect it to the school with internet and phones and everything, which Stephanie said that's really been working well, everything he's doing, and, that is.
everyone's strong.
Yeah, revenues have picked up a little bit, now that, we're open a little more, and people are remembering that we are, and get into the routine, and yeah, revenues aren't bad, so, yeah, we're okay.
Good.
When did the pool shut down for
May. And of course, we'll let everybody know and tell sources that we can that we're gonna do that. We grout, we drain it, and we grout, and we'll do a lot of structure because then it's empty and we can do all
They
that.
can get in there.
Yes. Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, so, yeah.
All right. Legislatively, again, a lot of things out there. I'll give you ISB legislative updates, or if you see anything in the paper or whatnot, but I'll keep you posted as we move forward. So a lot of things still play. Everything on the goodwill, but at this point, I'll just mention this while Derek's still here. You can see we've got several meetings between now and the April 14th regularly scheduled board meeting. So please put those dates and times in there. And one thing that's not on there is 2 weeks from tonight after our works, 2 weeks from tonight is busy.
Yeah.
We've got a special meeting at 5 o'clock. Budgetary stuff, et cetera. We've got to do some stuff with the bond issues that Stacy was talking about at the special meeting. Stacy will present the budget at the work session immediately following that special meeting. And 6 o'clock that night, SIAC, that's virtual. If you choose to join in on that, that's a virtual meeting as well. But next Monday, we're interviewing for the principal. Derek, for this one, we're interviewing 3 candidates for next Monday, and we had 32 people that applied. So all 3 candidates are coming on Monday, rotating through different groups that we have. And then next Wednesday, we've got our interest-based problem solving at 5 o'clock. So, March is a busy one. Yeah, as Linda mentioned to us earlier, it was March 15th a year ago, the Governor Reynolds made the call late in the afternoon, early evening, on a Sunday night, that we weren't going to be in school on Monday. So, as Mrs. Austin and Mr. Stainley remember, the next morning, we had a powwow with the Wilton and Durand admin teams for about 3 hours, over in the Durand board office, and started to sketch together a plan. And if you'd have told me a year ago, I mean, I was thinking about this, I got my second COVID shot last Friday, that, a year later, I was getting my second COVID vaccine. I wouldn't have believed we've been like this for so long. Remember the early, Governor Reynolds thought we'd be shut down for 3 weeks, we'd be back to school on April 12th. We're gonna flatten the curve. Well, we're still flattening, we're still flattening now.
Still trying.
12 months later. But, so anyway, kudos to Heather Hartley, our school nurse,
Yes.
who coordinated the vaccine shots here, and all the staff that have wanted them received their first shot.
Do you know what percent?
What's that?
Do you know what percent you got?
I don't know what percent of our staff got it. Would you-
88%.
Is that what she said? I was gonna say it was in the 80s, but I
There's
didn't want to say.
132 staff, and I think all but 16 got it.
Very, very good.
Well, good,
It's excellent.
very good.
And I believe they all got the Moderna.
It was Moderna. You'll see that all on the paper, this one.
We managed a whopping 70%. That worked.
Really? And didn't you say you had an incentive?
Yep.
And still was 70.
Yeah, I think the next incentive that's gonna come out should have been come out before we gave the shot. We did it all backwards, but this next one will probably spur a bunch of people to want to get the shot that didn't get it.
Gotcha.
That one hasn't been released yet, but it'll be a happy time for a lot of people in the next.
I will say this, looking back over the last year, I'm extremely proud and humbled by the work that everyone's done in both districts of addressing the pandemic. There were a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of unknowns. It was very cloudy last summer. What's the right thing to do? What's the right thing to do? What's the right thing to do? And ultimately, we tried to make the best decision for our kids, and learning in front of a teacher on a day-to-day basis with their peers, I believe, and luckily I believe the boards and everybody bought into, yeah, this is the best thing for kids. And I think when they look back someday, I'm sure grateful now, but I think people will really be glad their kids got to have as close to as normal a year as they possibly could.
I have a bunch of friends from Minnesota that their kids just went back to school last week. So, can't imagine how far behind when we were gone for 3 months, and our scores went down as far as they did at the very beginning of the school year, what it would look like. Yeah, especially when I've got the younger ones.
Oh, absolutely.
How far behind are my little one gonna be?
Yep. Nope. But anyway, we need a motion to go into a closed session as stated. And that takes a roll call vote to a motion and a second, and a roll call vote.
Stacy, would you take a picture before I go, because I've got to leave. I said if I'm taking that picture of Stacy, we
Yeah,
better
very
go.
good. Roll call. Linda Dunson. Jeremy Reese. Derek Arnold.
All right,
All right.
let's let Derek get each other off. Derek, get a picture of Stacy, if anyone needs it, the restroom, do that quick, and then grab the
Wait a minute,
cupcake.
Don't look so excited.
Angela and
Hopefully
then.
wrap this up well.
No, we'll do that again.